In this work, we sought to explore, through autoethnographic method, ways in which firms could gain an insight into consumer behaviour, and at the more generic level, ways in which autoethnographic methods can assist in building sustainable business models for all firms. Individuals in their consumption decisions vary in many ways, we know that. A large number of those decisions are complex, individualised and socially based, and so we wanted to explore some of those areas as well. In fact, consumer needs are the main driver for certain consumption patterns or brand choice. So, some of these decisions and patterns are functional, yet the majority of consumers strive to earn a symbolic and sentimental utility from their consumption. Perceptions vary, of course, when putting time, effort and money into consuming particular brands, since the expectations of individuals depends on the symbolic benefits obtained from the use and the exposure to and with that brand. In many ways, we see this as a natural extension to the concepts of metamodernism, in that we aim to build up the notion of communitas as espoused by Arnold and Price in 1993. The storytelling approach that we've used is co-constructive narrative, of course. And for a narrative, we need some storytellers. So let's hear the story from Nadine and Lizzie about the purchase of a dress.
As I was getting off of work at around 5:30 p.m. from the lovely Estee Lauder building in New York City, I remembered that I was invited to my cousin's birthday party at the Villa Barone Hilltop Manor, upstate New York. I knew that this event would include family members, friends, and other important individuals. Simply put, it would be a not-so-traditional Jordanian party, yet still consisting of both Jordanians and Americans.
What a sophisticated lifestyle. Of course, a party is a very special event for any woman, but such an international event in a cosmopolitan location demands the most sophisticated and elegant dress that can be purchased. I remember how wonderful shopping in New York can be. So much choice, so many beautiful designers, and so many sensory experiences.
Bearing in mind that I did not want to spend much since I was trying to save for my California trip, I decided to stop by Macy's on the 34th Street. In my mind, I knew that they had some lovely international brands and was looking forward to finding a simple dress. Wandering between the aisles and getting lost in the lovely, breathtaking and mesmerizing perfume section, as usual, I found it. I found that what would be just perfect, beautiful, elegant, yet simple black dress that I absolutely adored.
I know exactly what Nadine means about the perfume department. I love walking through these at the beginning of a shopping expedition. Our senses are assaulted in a very gentle and acceptable way by ladies with perfect maquillage, wafting beautiful scents our way and tantalising us with intricately packaged bottles where the glossy, luxurious packaging costs more than the perfume itself. And black dresses. What is it with us women and black dresses? I have a wardrobe full of these, and still, when I need a new dress, I automatically gravitate towards black. Yes, it slims us, but I think it also acts as a perfect background.
I eagerly tried on the dress in my size, and it was simply on point. I started thinking of the accessories that would go with it, that I had suitable heels at home, and so many ideas crossed my mind. I rushed to the cashier, and as she was scanning it, she said, "What a lovely dress." She continued to process the transaction, and then I realized that it was also on sale.
Nadine's satisfaction with her purchase was compounded by the sales assistant's reaction. How lovely it is to get that affirmation from a third party. Already having accessories and shoes to match the dress makes an expensive purchase more justifiable.
I felt so confident wearing it through the party. I danced freely, walked around easily, felt energetic, and simply fit. I knew everyone would recognize that it is from Macy's, or at least know that it is a well-trusted brand. Above all, I knew that I had got this dress at a bargain price.
Nadine felt great, that much is evident. Knowing that your dress was a bargain is a great feeling. But I wonder if anybody commented on Nadine's dress, if she told them that it was a bargain. It fascinates me how I and my shopping sisterhood cannot possibly accept a compliment about our clothes without telling everybody and their uncle how little it cost us and what an absolute steal it was.
Well, I don't know if I would tell anyone how cheap it was. But anyways, fast forwarding to after the party, I packed my dress and sent it to the dry cleaners. I wanted to keep it in great condition because I knew I would definitely end up taking the dress back home to Jordan.
I understand Nadine's wish to take the dress back home and solicit approval of her cosmopolitan style. I can remember a long time ago when I was 18, I bought a skirt on the Champs-Élysées in Paris. I used to be absolutely delighted when people asked me where I had bought it, because it gave me a chance to tell them how sophisticated I was.
I started asking myself so many random questions. I could have bought this dress for so much cheaper back home. I could have bought another dress and from a different international brand for the same price. And certainly, I would not bother taking this dress back home to Jordan, since it might be simply worn by far many two people.
Oh, Nadine, how disappointed you were. Was this really conflict between national and global identity, though? Or was it just an indication that you can take the girl out of Jordan, but you can't take Jordan out of the girl? We have internal value systems which run deep. We've been raised in societies that have specific cultures and practices, and very often we don't recognise how these impact on the choices that we make.
I kept on thinking, out of all the brands out there and all the dresses in Macy's and in New York, I ended up purchasing a dress made in Jordan for that much money. It was very funny feeling of how a person could be miles away from home, yet in a blink of an eye and through consumption of imported goods, realize that he or she never left home at all.
Do we ever leave home? Do we ever divorce ourselves completely from that which makes us us? The fact is, Nadine would look simply gorgeous in whatever she bought and wore as her sense of style shines through. Getting married for the second time is a little daunting. Boswell says it's a triumph of hope over experience, and I tend to agree. Apart from the worries of history repeating itself, even though I'd really felt that this was different, I had the problem of what to wear. As a middle-aged woman preparing to walk down a narrow gap between chairs in a room in a hotel, rather grand, but still just a room in a hotel, I didn't want to under or overdress. I didn't want to pretend to be virginally pure. After all, I had 2 teenage offspring. And I certainly didn't want to look like an ageing Shirley Temple in a frothy meringue of lace and silk. On the other hand, I didn't want to look like Camilla Parker Bowles. My inner teenager balked nauseously at the thought of a coat dress and matching roadkill fascinator.
Lizzie has done this before, and this is her second marriage, and she is letting her hopes win over her fears and disappointments. She obviously does not want people to think she's pretending that it is her first marriage, but is also concerned about dressing appropriately.
A shopping trip to Solihull in the West Midlands soon made me realise that traditional wedding dresses were far too fussy. They would show my dimply upper arms and make me look ridiculous. The shops were also populated with assistants who would tell me I looked beautiful, even if I looked like a circus sideshow, providing the price tag on the dress would allow them a sizable commission. I settled for a bridesmaid's dress in deep champagne, plain, elegant, and with the option of a short jacket to hide the offending upper arms. Of course, being just 5'2" in height, the dress was too long for me, and in order to avoid me tripping quite literally towards my future husband, it needed to be shortened.
Dresses lately are not designed for average women. Instead, it feels like they are made for Victoria's Secret models, expecting everyone to look absolutely fine in them. Lizzie does not trust the sales assistant and probably, like everyone else, believes that they are biased towards making the sale.
2 weeks later, armed with my rather expensive wedding shoes, after all, a wedding is an ideal time for guilt-free self-indulgence, I tried on my elegant dress, only to find that they had over-shortened it, and I looked as if I'd had an alarming middle-aged growth spurt. The assistant assured me that they could fix it, and I left with a sinking feeling, wondering exactly how they would manage to grow an extra 2 inches onto the bottom of my dress.
Weddings are all about us women indulging ourselves without any sort of disapproval of our behavior. Disappointment in our purchases after high hopes and expectations can frustrate us.
I returned home with a sure and certain knowledge that my dress was going to be a disaster, and over a consoling cup of tea started to flick through a rather upmarket magazine. There, in the bottom left-hand corner of the inside page, was an ad for an exclusive boutique, bearing the image of a beautiful dress that would be perfect, just perfect. I made a note of the brand of the dress and then started searching for retail outlets. There was one en route to Solihull, and on the day that I was to return to try my shortened, lengthened dress, I decided to call in, just in case you understand. 1.
Lizzie, while drinking a cup of tea, is flicking the upmarket magazine, looking for inspiration in case that dress is ruined. Although acting calm, she is looking for a glimpse of light between all the options she has, and she finds it.
It was a grim, grey and rainy day, with dark clouds and heavy showers. I had to park a few hundred yards away from the boutique, and by the time I'd sprinted through the puddle-strewn streets, my carefully straightened hair had started to curl uncontrollably, and my makeup was threatening to slide down my face. I burst through the door of the boutique in a flurry of wind and rain, making the chimes ring violently, taking in the cold air with me, and causing the 2 assistants to look around in an alarmed manner.
I love my new, temporary adopted home. Everything in the UK is beautiful, except its gloomy weather and limited parking. It is such an annoying feeling when you have your hair straightened and in a blink of an eye, it appears as if you just stepped out of the shower. These awkward moments get even worse when you realize that you are there to try on dresses while you are soaking wet. I don't think I'd have the courage to go into the shop, especially since it was a high-class boutique.
I explained what I was looking for, and after relieving me of my umbrella and sodden coat, they guided me solicitously to the back of the shop, where this particular range of dresses was stored. It was love at first sight, and the object of my love was absolutely nothing like I was consciously seeking. A pure silk, two-toned green and gold dress with a gold lace bodice and a delicate silk wrap to cover my shoulders and arms was whispering my name from the hanging rail. I tried it on. It was a perfect fit, and I heard my voice saying, "I'll take it." The price tag was scary, but this dress was meant to be mine, and I handed over my little piece of plastic in a painless exchange for a luxuriously beribboned carrier bag bearing the embossed name of the boutique and containing the spoils of my trip.
I can only relate to Lizzie's feeling when she fell in love with that dress. The feeling comes from nowhere, and it looks like nothing you had in mind, but you still absolutely adore it. The green and gold in the dress will enhance Lizzie's eyes and hair color. Here, Lizzie's behavior and attitude are clearly overcoming her fear of the price she is paying for that second dress.
The brand was Jordanian. I had never previously heard of it, but its name spoke to me of quality, exoticism, style, and exclusivity. It was likely that my wedding guests would not have seen a dress like this before and would certainly not have heard of the brand, but that gave it a certain cachet in my eyes.
The way Lizzie is explaining her feelings, knowing that the brand is Jordanian, amazes me. Lizzie is relating the quality to the name of the brand, and also, perhaps, she is relating quality to price. Maybe it is the idea of the guests never been exposed to such a brand that is the reason behind your love affair with the dress.
As it happened, my original dress had been beautifully altered and was found to fit perfectly, so I wore it for the ceremony and then changed into my Jordanian dress for the small dinner party that would act as a wedding reception. I was gratified by the oohs and ahs from my special guests and took great pleasure in telling them that my dress was made by a Jordanian designer.
Reading this, I felt that Lizzie fell in love with the Jordanian dress much more than the original one. In fact, I'm wondering why she did not wear the original dress, while returned the Jordanian one back to the boutique. I ponder if this is the effect of cognitive dissonance again, hunting her down with the change of attitude and belief, or even from the behavior of the guests in the wedding party. I think I would be very happy telling the guests that my dress is from Jordan, but the only problem is, they would probably never perceive it as quality.
How much more exotic was it to be wearing a Jordanian designer dress than the plain and simple British bridesmaid gown? Much, much more. The exotic qualities of the dress were transferred to me, and I sparkled in a confident and exotic way, all because of my dress.
It's all about where we are and who are our guests. That British bridesmaid gown would be absolutely gorgeous in the eyes of Jordanian guests, just like how exotic that Jordanian dress was to all of your guests. We are influenced by the perceptions of others and by what is known to be different. We drift away from anything domestic, yet are drawn by anything foreign.
We have chosen a metamodernist lens for this activity as we decentralize consumption from linear patterns of behavior. The metamodern view is one of oscillation between the narrative, which is quite naive, of the modernist and the iconic narrative of the postmodernist. Thus we see and seek a descriptive rather than a prescriptive discourse. How an individual structures a feeling around the purchase of and subsequent use of a garment, in our case a dress. For example, oscillations between futility and usefulness, simultaneously developing a new vocabulary for consumer insight through user experience, according to Kova and others in 2013. Therefore, we observe from a metamodernist marketing perspective that brands from one's own country are not perceived in the same exotic light as items from other places of origin. There is an oscillation of meaning that takes place between the country of origin and the country of consumption. Additionally, there is rich data within this piece of research which may provide insight into the female clothes shopping experience. As clearly, narrative extracted from an individual is at once naive and useful to marketers, and accepts that few universal truths actually exist in consumer behaviour. Autoethnographic research mirrors this narrative approach and avoids the specialist language often associated with more formal methods of data collection and the interpretation and analysis thereof. This approach could, through its academic novelty, provide a way of bridging the gap between academia and practice. The most interesting occurrence is that in a world of marketing and business management research, this type of approach is rarely used, as philosophically it borrows much from the arts. However, it can elicit rich data and important consumer insights in line with recent developments in UX, user experience, ethnographic research.